So
Because Raphael's
Asmodeus
a good guy, man.
So Asmodeus has killed 7 of her husbands on their wedding night, which is something that is shameful too. So what happens is Sarah's father during the night when nobody's able to see buries them in his backyard. Okay, which is another interesting aspect of this whole thing. Now, the conflict about it is like after being blinded by sparrow droppings, Tobit sends his son Tobias uh, to Midia to recover a large sum of money. Now, simultaneously, Sarah prays for death in her despair, and God sends the archangel Raphael to help. Now, Raphael, disguised as a human who's named Azariah, accompanies Tobias. And under instructions from Raphael, Tobias uses the liver and heart of a fish to drive away the demon Asmodeus and marry Sarah. Okay.
Yep.
So that's how that story goes. So Tobias, Sarah, and Raphael, after that, return to Nineveh, where Tobias uses the gall of the same fish to heal his father's blindness. And Raphael then reveals his true identity before he leaves. And that has nothing to do with alchemy whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen. Same century, same everything. So the goal of the fish did not cure anybody of blindness. And my favorite part about that story is the fish tried to eat Tobit's foot. Like he put his foot down under the water, and this huge fish, this was a huge fish, came up and tried to eat his foot, dude. I love that.
It was just eating its dead skin off of his foot.
And we were probably talking about something like a pike, considering the region. And pikes can be quite vicious, can't they?
Well, I doubt if the fish actually existed, Mark. Just.
So, I'm going to push you back on the point you mentioned a while ago that regular Jews do not bury the dead.
Mm-hmm.
They do. Burying the dead is not reserved. It's not a duty that's reserved only to the priest, right?
Mm-hmm.
An example is in the case when Jesus died, right? Joseph of Arimathea, he wasn't a priest. He's just a regular Jew. He came in and asked for Jesus' body, and he went and he buried it under his own tomb. So, yeah, like I was saying, even in the old Jewish tradition, burying of the dead is a work of mercy. Okay, back to the content of the Book of Enoch. So we were saying, Azazel,
Okay.
we're saying he's the horned one.
Okay, I got that actually to clear that up. It's not unclean. It's actually governed by specific and strict rules. They're called the Tuma. It's ritual impurity versus sin, basically. It wasn't a sin. It's not a sin to touch dead body. It's in fact, it's caring for the dead and providing a proper burial is considered one of the highest acts. The unclean state is touching a corpse. It made an individual ritually impure for 7 days. Okay, now.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, in medieval Europe, wasn't it a tradition that gravediggers weren't allowed to be buried within a cemetery because they were considered to be unclean or spiritually unclean?
It would make sense because impurity was usually caused by touching, carrying, or even being in the same room. You know what I mean? As a corpse. That was one thing. And then the purification rite. In order to do that, in order to become clean again, a person had to be sprinkled with water mixed with the ashes of a red heifer on the 3rd and the 7th day. And then after that, until purified, the person was barred from entering the temple and participating in certain religious sacrifices.
So,
Yes, there's the specific or burial custom that they have to follow. So I mean, so how do you balance that? Just basically you are sacrificing yourself when you're doing this work of mercy, right?
Well,
So so what if you become unclean after you bury a dead body? So you stay yourself out of.
from the story that I took from it, he wasn't doing the rituals properly, and he ended up getting exiled because of like not obeying the rituals of doing it. He would just go around burying dead bodies that he'd seen on the road, and he wouldn't go through the rituals that he was supposed to go through.
but presumably, if he's stumbling across bodies, just lying about, just there would be some level of rigor mortis and
Like the Kohims, they're not allowed. They're completely forbidden from touching any kind of dead bodies, any corpses, except for their immediate family members.
any dead body.
Right. Yeah, the only ones they can touch is their immediate family members.
I'm sorry, not dead bodies, but dead humans. See, I'm just thinking food.
Yeah.
If you're going to have
Okay.
if you're going to have
All right, guys,
let's say,
stop digressing. Get back to the content. So we're talking about the two angels.
Do you still have the article to share so I can put it on the stream?
Which article?
The one that you had on
the one
before.
they would display in.
Was I not? Am I not sharing? Oh, I'm not sharing. Okay.
Yeah, sure, and I'll pop it up. Let's see, we actually getting some good intellectual stuff coming out of this.
Yes,
Tant.
Is that it?
There we go. It's coming. Hold
Got
up.
it?
Give it a second. It's black right now, but it should pop up.
How about that?
It's a black screen. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. Now we're back on track.
So we were going to names of the angels who have fallen. The Azazel is mentioned in the Bible, but Semzaza is not.
Now the Semjaza, I have the guy who led the revolt against the Romans during during
No,
the
no, the
Jewish.
Maccabee is the one that read the remote.
Hold up.
Different people. We're talking about these fallen angels. Those are the other guys are the human.
Well, he was given a surname that goes according to Simjaza. Like you know how when people were made into heroes, they were given like specific names that goes with it.
Where do you find, because it's not part of the Bible, that Maccabee was renamed Semzaja?
Hold up,
Where do you find that information?
Simjaza. It's been like I said, it's been a while since, and I can't actually fall back on it anymore because a lot of my stuff got wiped. So I'm kind of having to
He is, according to the Book of Watchers, he's the leader of the fallen angels. But so wouldn't that correlate him to Lucifer?
Not really, because like when it comes to masonry, the whole thing when it comes to like learning like cosmetics and stuff like that comes to that's in Freemasonry when it comes to the pillars and what's his face you remember the story of what was his name? He was the one who created the temple.
You mean Solomon?
No, it was in Freemason's story where he was the guy who created who sent his workers to create the Temple of Solomon. About
What are you talking about? Freemason?
Freemasons.
Masonry is something very new.
Everything that's written here is within the Freemasons' doctrine. Actually, they adopted most of this. Now,
yeah, but the Freemason came way after part of the American history, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing that's so weird about it is the fact
That's so much later.
All of this correlates with the actual Book of Enoch. It's pathetic.
But okay, so if the Book of Enoch equates Samjaza to the leader of the fallen angels, then he's got to be the Enochian version of Satan, then, because in the Book of Revelation, Lucifer was the leader of the fallen angels that he later renamed to Satan.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Semjaza is a fallen angel and the leader of the Watchers, which is Grigori. And that would be in the Book of Enoch. Now, he is famous for leading 200 angels down to earth. Now, according to legend, he was punished by being suspended upside down in the sky, becoming the constellation of Orion. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Now, the leader of the most famous Jewish rebellion against Rome, that would be Bar Kokhba revolt in 132 to 136 CE. He was the military leader who I'm referring to, and he was he established an independent Jewish state for 3 years before being defeated by Hadrian. Now he was he was one who was given he was actually given the term Messiah. He was one of the first ones. It was Rabbi Akiva. Now Semjaza is often translated as the infamous rebellion, or he sees the name, which might sound like a title for a rebel leader. You know what I mean? So when it comes to Bar Koba's name, Bar Koba means son of a star, which is referring to a Mosaic prophet in Numbers 24:17. Now, there's a lot of discussion that's been brought up about that. Okay, and that's especially when it comes to Enochian literature about fallen angels, and Sanjaza is something that kept coming up because it often describes using star symbolism, which is also in the Book of Enoch, if you remember what you just went through. And that's another thing that goes along with a lot of the Jewish mysticism.
I don't. So, what are you trying to relate between Sanjaza and the or the Jewish revolt, Simon Bar Kokhba?
Now, Simon Bar Kokhba, okay, means son of a star. Okay, now that Sanjaza's name is often translated as the infamous rebellion. Okay, so when it comes to Sanjaza, that's kind of suspicious to me. I think that has more to do with Bar Kokhba's name rather than it being something that's true to its cause. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, because a lot of people believe that these people who had the scrolls, that they were like admired by people, but they weren't. They secluded themselves away, and a lot of the Jewish freaking cults that were in Israel didn't really get along with them too well. You know what I mean? They
Maccabees, the Judas Maccabees and his brothers.
I'm talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls, though, like the what were they? I keep forgetting the name of them. But the tribe that was hidden away in the mountains who actually had the Dead Sea Scrolls, they weren't accepted by the majority of the Jewish community. They actually went off to themselves and had their own belief system, their own political system, everything. They actually denounced a lot of the things that traditional Jews actually believed in. And Bar Kokhba.
Keeps lowering my microphone volume. I don't know. It's maybe Sanjaza is doing.
It could be. Now,
did you notice my voice getting lower and lower?
Your voice right now is actually doing pretty good. It's just
I just put it back up. You can notice it. You just noticed that it went back.
Any difference there? I think possibly the Jitsi framework is sort of equalizing.
Yeah, maybe. Well, how do I turn that off? I don't want it.
It's okay. It's fine.
Now, the Essenes is the ones I'm talking about. The Essenes were the ones who weren't really they weren't accepted into a lot of the traditional Jews of that time period. You know.
Back to the Book of Enoch, man. So we were just talking about the fallen angels. This is the revolt of the angels that led to the flood. 1611, apparently it's mentioned. chapter 12 to 16. So Enoch died early in the book, or he taken to heaven, where he intercedes for the watchers right? Okay, so in this book, in these chapters, it talks about emphasizing that the angels were not created for procreation. You know this, and their sins defile the spiritual realm. So, if they were not created for procreation, how is it that they were allowed to procreate them, right? So, I mean, if their intrinsic nature does not allow procreation, just like I was mentioning in the last week, where I mean, the angels were created that many, and that is it for all of them. They do not, copulate with each other and give rise to more angels, right? They were initially created that many, and that was it. And 1/3 of them fell. That's the book of Revelation saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the book of Enoch is saying that they were not created for procreation, but they have the faculty of procreation, right? This is kind of contradictory, right? So, but that is what it's saying. It's saying they were not created for procreation, but they violated that rule. It's just like some rule that you are not meant to break, but you can, basically.
So this goes back to the concept of free will. This goes back to the concept of Eve picking that apple, even though she's been told not to. It's about free will, isn't it?
It also goes back to what you were talking about too, about gender, because like if you stop and you look at it, it's like Dan's saying right there. I mean, are they capable of procreating, or are they not capable of procreating?
The argument would go something like if angels can change shape, change the manifestation, then why can't they create the organs for the purpose of copulation?
Procreation, right? Well, the thing is, these angels, they are not creators. If they are creators, then they would be gods.
Well, see, I personally believe that, like, if you read the historical text on a lot of them, a lot of these supposed demons that were fallen angels were actually worshipped as gods. Like, if you take a look at, like, the Babylonian gods and the Greek gods and the Roman gods,
but they're false gods, though.
Right? And see, like, right there, not one place in the Bible does it say that these deities didn't exist. They just called them false gods. They don't say that they were all make believe and they don't exist. I honestly believe that the people who wrote the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, believe that these deities actually existed.
But when it says they're false gods, it means they're not real gods at all.
No, it doesn't say that they're make believe and they're just
no.
You know what I mean?
It's not make believe. It's their people who can.
Yeah,
they're so powerful. They consider themselves God, where they're not.
Yeah,
it's like the Greeks.
It doesn't say that. They honestly don't say that. Like they don't deny the fact that these other deities were there. They just say that the Jewish/Christian God was the one true God. I've never seen any place in any of the texts where it says that these are make-believe gods that were invented by human beings. There's nothing in these texts that say that.
But you just said that the God of the Jews is the one true God.
That's
Doesn't
the way
that
they
mean all the
believe.
other ones are false gods?
There's a difference between making gods up and being false gods, though. You know what I mean?
Well, what's the difference?
For one thing, they believe that these were actually superhuman deities. You know what I mean? They didn't feel as though that these were just made up entities that just didn't exist and that there was only one God.
Nobody is saying that they're made up entities. I'm saying that these people are may be very powerful, that they think themselves as God.
I don't think that they believe they were people.
I think Roger's usage of the word "made up" is a bit unfair because what he's suggesting is, if you are one of these fallen angels, do you consider yourself as a god, or do the people that worship you consider you to be a god?
Right.
Well, definitely Satan would consider himself God.
Well, Satan himself didn't even exist until the creation of Christianity. You know what I mean? It was like
Satan was mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, though. Sorry to jump in something.
Oh, hey.
The book of Job is very famous for that. Satan is the crown prosecutor, if you like, and a servant of God, as all beings are, whether they admit it or not.
Now, did they call him out specifically as Satan or Lucifer?
Satan, yeah, that's the word. It means accuser. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The accuser of the brother. The book of Job, exactly.
So was he portrayed as an evil entity, or was he one of God's?
He was portrayed, I think, the way you would look on a district attorney, who is like, let's investigate this guy. You know, like lawfare.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you read the book of Job, God was very, as I recall, and Penn can correct me. My biblical knowledge isn't what it might be, but as I recall, Job was an upright man, beloved of God, and Satan's like, he's not so great. Take some of his stuff away, see what he does. It's basically like an entrapment thing.
Mm-hmm.
Satan was trying to get him to curse God, and then like, oh, see, I was right. You know, put him in jail. You know, put him in hell, whatever. So it was almost like a kind of an entrapment thing, like they do today sometimes, I think. So yeah, but Satan, I don't think he was evil as such. He was obviously a servant of God. He was in the presence of God, but his role is not one that we as humans like very much.
Yeah.
You know, because we're constantly tempted with things. You know, in Buddhism, it's defilements. You know, these things that take us away from virtue, and I think that was Satan's job.
Yeah.
And at least in that book, that's what I got from it. Tan might have, I'm sure, a more nuanced look at it.
No, actually, when you said that, you brought up a good that actually fits in perfectly, because that's what me and Tan were kind of going over a little bit on that, because like Satan, first of all, he wasn't portrayed as being evil until freaking Christianity, when it said that he turned against God and revolted against him, and then he felt he was actually the most beautifulest of God's angels.
You know, in Islam, there's an interesting tradition, and of course, Islam took a lot from Christian and Jewish traditions, many of which aren't with us anymore, I think. And in that, when God made Adam as the epitome, you know, this was his greatest creation, and he wanted all his angels to come and bow down to Adam as God's greatest creation. And Satan said, no, I can't do that. I love God more than anything that he made, and refused to bow down. And God said to him, go to hell. And the last words echoing in Iblis, his name was Iblis. Head was like echoing of his beloved, who he loved more than anything, telling him just to go to hell. And it's interesting. It's kind of an interesting way to look at it. So maybe he loved it not wisely, but he loved too well.
It's a little bit different in Islam. You have different orders and ranks. You had God, and then you have the angels, and then you had the the fire spirits, the Ifrits. That's supposedly what Satan is, or Iblis in Islam. Because technically, if the angels were made are shards of God, then they are part of Him. They cannot disobey. So Islam explains it differently, that they are fire spirits, smokeless fire, and they're different, and that's why they hate us, because they're made of fire and we're made of clay, and they feel superior. So
Clay,
yeah.
clay
By the
needs
way,
to be
hello
fired.
everybody.
Clay needs to be fired in order to become porcelain.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a Catholic tradition or is others, but the angels come in 9 choirs. There are 9 different hierarchies of angels, and the one closest to God are the one are burning with God, with the love of God. That's why they're like the flaming, right?
Well,
So,
Wasn't there a
there are,
line in William Blake where he said he was strolling along in hell looking at the lights of genius, which to heaven looks like the writhings of torture? Something like that?
yeah,
I have to look up the
sure,
quote.
why not? So that's why. So that's why the flame of the flame of hell and the flame of purgatory, which is like the cleansing step
Right.
into heaven, is like the same flame. it's the same flame, the same love of God that burns 2 different souls, have different effects on them.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting. I understand that the fires are not supposed to be material fire.
Right.
I've always understood it as a spiritual fire. I read
hellfire.
Yeah, hellfire was spiritual. I read this thing about years ago, the science fiction story about a guy that made a deal with a devil, but the devil wanted him to go into this place in hell where there was this ring of power so he could take over from Satan. So he says, well, let me think. This is not material fire, right? No, this is like despair and this and that. All right, I'll need some Valium. Just take some Valium, but no one can go through the despair. Just give me some Valium. He just goes and takes the drug, goes through, comes out. Oh, I need a pot of coffee now. I'm kind of sleepy. Here's your magic ring. And I don't know, you kind of had to be there. It's interesting, the things that stick in your head sometimes. I don't think Valium could really help, to tell you the truth. Under those circumstances, that's a little caveat. I'm not advocating that.
I know I'm a little late to the party here, but have we? Oh wait, before I get started, let me.
You're starting. You're gonna get started. Okay.
Okay. Listen. I have a. I know a guy. He is my landscaper, right? Man. Yeah. How do I stop this? His name is Tanner, and guess what? He's a little bit darker than Tan.
Guy named Tanner. Interesting. You don't meet many Tanners.
Nice.
This is the truth. But have you guys started talking about the aliens?
We're sprinkling it between the Book of Enoch, yeah, but
aliens. Yeah. No, I love the description of what Enoch says about the thing that comes down from the sky. It's clearly a spaceship. Clearly.
Well, I think that every time has what people intrinsically consider to be really powerful. And there was a time when the most powerful things came from the sky, and they were spiritual beings, gods or demons or whatnot. Now we, as a culture, no longer believe in that. But what we do believe is the superior power of aliens. We've gotten to a point, you remember the old saying that sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, or for that matter, for religion. So we have this idea that physical science can make us godlike. That singularity idea.
Oh yeah.
We're all eventually going to have infinite power and stuff like that. But really, this is simply a secularization of what people have always deep down felt. Something bigger is up there, and it has a lot more power than us. And if we appeal to it, it can help us. And if we do the wrong thing, it can harm us. So I think part of that is just we're transposing people's hopes and fears onto what the biggest thing in our culture, and that's like the great thing I always say about in that great comedy show Red Dwarf, where Lister and Rimmer are there looking at this thing, and Rimmer goes, "Oh, I don't believe in God. I believe in aliens," and that epitomizes it completely. The space aliens, unfortunately, have become replacing, I think, religious and spiritual concepts for a lot of people.
Well, how about this? It's sort of a chicken or the egg kind of question. Which came first, contact with the aliens, with our species, or did we just come up with belief of gods just to explain nature? Which came first?
Well, Occam's razor says that the simplest explanation is the most likely one. And to me, it makes a lot more sense to think that the Earth is at the center of the cosmos and that the planets and stars are pushed around by angelic beings that we can't see. I mean, it's very simple. It makes sense. It's moving, so it must be alive or have some kind of life. Right?
Huh.
It cuts through so much balderdash. It's just like, well, it's just, it's
Yeah.
four elements are a lot better. So, I really am going more and more all in on Ptolemaic astronomy. I really am enjoying it. It's really, I think it's much superior to this gobbledygook they have today.
Okay.
Now, flat Earth guys, get out of the way. Here comes Ptolemaic boy. I'll blow you guys out of the water.
What? You guys don't know the Earth is flat? Get out of here.
Flat Earth, nothing. We're the center of the universe, guys. The sun goes around us.
Yeah.
I got the math. It's right here. Epicycles. It's all about epicycles.
Well, I mean, and if the Earth wasn't the center of the cosmos, then every king that was divine has divine right to rule us. They're illegitimate.
Only if they're in the right church do they have divine right. You got to remember that has to be the correct denomination.
Christianity and Europe just would not work at the time if that was not the case. You got to have the solar deity. That's why it's the sun. The sun is the sun. The mother's the earth, and then you have a holy like spirit of whatever your choice.
I was thinking about how consciousness is necessary for reality to be real. We think, that's a very bastardized version of quantum physics, but the consciousness is part of this. And when you're sitting on the Earth and you're looking out into the universe, our consciousness of what is out there is what's informing it. I mean, in theory, you don't need anything more than just us humans being conscious of this stuff and all the parameciums. You don't really need intelligent life other places, although I think there is life throughout the universe. I'm a big panspermia guy. No bad jokes today. A big panspermia guy. I really think life is ubiquitous throughout the universe. And now, intelligent life, that's another whole kettle of fish, because my own theory is that our quote-unquote intelligence is really a sign of mental illness. But we won't open up that can today. That could be another show.
You say no bad jokes, but literally the expression of God, the literal expression of God, when you look at Yahweh, the sound is supposed to be that of an eruption of a volcano.
Oh yeah, pillar of fire by night, pillar of smoke by day, rumbles on top of a mountain. That's pretty much a volcano, dude.
Yeah. So creation is thought of in a sense that way. It someone exploded something, and then there was I mean, of course, you have
there are some ancient
degrees of that belief.
There's an ancient Egyptian myth about the god Ptah creating the universe, which I'm not going to go into now because we're going to keep it clean. But you can look that up if you're not aware of it. Egyptian creation story of the god Ptah, Ptaa. You'll find a very interesting little tale.
Oh yeah. So there are. For example, there's a Greek myth about someone was a man had got with a goddess of the hunt, I believe. It was Athena. Some guy was trying to get at her and accidentally, prematurely let off onto her legs. to which she wiped off, and it spilled on the ground, and it gave life.
Right.
So,
Well, Venus,
very odd story.
the goddess Venus or Aphrodite was born from the sea foam. The foam was supposedly the seed of Cronus, who had been castrated
Right.
and his organ thrown into the water. We just have to use these $5 words, and it's fine. That's the key to this. Just so you know.
Yeah.
But the Enochian book is interesting. I'm not very conversant with it, but I understand that it reflects a line of Jewish apocalyptic thoughts, because people were really interested in the end of the world and apocalypses, and there seemed to be a certain interest in that at that time in history.
Well, so I thought it was very interesting when I went over the information. The rabbis say it's heretical, non-canon, not a part of Judaism, but it's Jewish mysticism. Okay, Hebrew mysticism. With the two powers in heaven. Have you heard that one?
No.
The good and the evil?
So the two powers in heaven, when Enoch was taken up to heaven, he's one of two people that were ever did that. But supposedly Enoch was allowed to sit on the throne of God, and once he did, he became he transubstantiated into an angel. He literally turned into the most powerful angel. This angel was called the Metatron, or Little Yahweh.
The voice of God.
The voice of God.
Now, see, the whole thing I was trying to get at that I forgot the name, and it was Tubal-Cain when it comes to the Freemasons. And Tubal-Cain is very, very interesting when you start putting all of this together, because it was actually it was a password. When you said Tubal-Cain, it was a password for the Master Mason's degree. Now,
they loved obscure little biblical passages. Anything having to do with the Temple of Solomon.
And it had to do with preservation of ancient wisdom, what they considered ancient wisdom. Now, this gets really, really intricate, because it goes all the way back to Genesis 4:22, where he was the first instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And this goes back to what Tan had posted earlier about the Book of Enoch, where it starts talking about these fallen angels and how they had taught humans these things. Now, if you remember in the story of Tubal-Cain sent Hiram Abiff to build the Temple of Solomon. Okay.
Right.
And he and his brothers were trained in these crafts which were forbidden. So you can see the transmission of the information being passed on, you know what I mean? Is what I'm getting at.
I was reading some very interesting stuff about masonry and its development from the original stonemasons to what they call the speculative masons, just guys that wear aprons but don't really do work. The aprons are like stonemasons' aprons, and sort of things like that. And a lot of these Masonic traditions derive from these medieval groups who would create their own mythology. They felt they had to integrate themselves into European mythology, which at that time was the Bible, for all intents and purposes. So my own feeling is that these craftspeople, well, let's be real, craftsmen. These craftsmen were perpetuating this mythology as a way to unify their group and also integrate it into the wider society, so that they too are part of this great biblical narrative that the West used to regard itself as, Christendom, we used to call it. So that was all I had. Unless you want me to start going on about Freemasons, but
well, so
we've actually gotten Tan to where he's gone silent. So
I think
Things got a little chaotic here when I popped in. I'm like,
I
look at
think
Joe, hey!
well, we got
Everybody.
so sidetracked from what I wanted to do originally. Let's pause this here and continue next week, and move on with your regularly scheduled.
I do want to point. I
We get
do.
here earlier next week too.
I do
Yes,
want to point something out to you though on this chapter 17 through 36 you got right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Sheol, okay, that's interesting. That's something that you would probably want to look at. And then when they start talking about the storehouses of winds and stars, mountains of fire and precious stones, those are things that you should never overlook, because that is where I come in and I start talking about alchemy and paganism and how it's just saturated in all of these stories everywhere.
I think a lot of these books are astrotheological, as they call it. A lot of them have to do with movements of the heavenly bodies, and I've talked about this a lot before. For ancient peoples, the sky was rocket science. You know, they saw, the star rises and the river floods, or the sun does this and we can grow crop. So they figured everything was integrated into one big thing, and if only they could figure out what the stars meant. So I think a lot of the time they were looking to the sky literally to see what was going to happen and what they were supposed to do. That's why they get really upset over things like comets and fireballs and stuff like that. Like whole cities would collapse. They have riots and things. It's because there's a comet or something. The government's overgrown.
They have folks that want to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Well, I could see it. Hey, there's a comet. Time to go on a looting spree. Woohoo! And everybody just rises up. I'm getting a new horse this time.
I don't think Tan expected all this intense.
Logical insight, yeah.
Well, I mean, like from a perspective of a Catholic, what would your take of all this be, Tan?
The several sections down, I go over some of the early church fathers, how they consider this book, and how some of them actually accepted it as truth, but then later they got rebuked. They got rejected by the churches, saying this is why this is why it's this.
How much access did the West have to the book? I understood that it came in kind of late. I mean, when they were compiling the King James Bible, for example, did they even have access to consider including it? I know there's some Apocrypha in there, but I don't think the Book of Enoch's in there.
The King James is way after.
Yeah.
Even way back in the 3rd century, people like Augustine, Irenaeus, they were already aware of this book.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how far back it
Irenaeus
was available.
a great naysayer. Irenaeus will tell you what's canon, what's not, what's crap, and he hated Gnosticism. It was the great heresy for him.
Right.
No,
but for a period of time, he did. Let's quickly go down.
He's excited now.
Well, as a Catholic, can I ask you, how does it feel knowing that the Romans, because of Roman Catholicism, Romans killed Jesus? Pilate's orders, right?
How does it feel? I mean, from the
having a religion of a people who killed their God.
From the Christianity's point of view, it was the Jews who gave Jesus up to the Romans. Right?
I remember that in the Catechism, the wicked Jews.
Yeah.
There were some good Jews. I think they implied that there were good Jews too, so it was only the wicked Jews.
And I think that it's only appropriate that we mention Saint Athanasius too, because he's very important in a lot of this when it comes to what me and Tan were talking about deifying mortals and stuff into God-like beings. That's something that came directly from Saint Ignatian. Like when you hear about Thoth and Tuatus, he was one of them that Saint Ignatian just directly accused of being deified. He was a human that made it to Egypt and taught them math and reading and stuff like that, and they made him into a deity.
Yeah, they would deify Roman emperors too. But I think the Passion of Christ, I think, if you're going to relate it to something pagan, and I love what G.K. Chesterton said, if you really want to see paganism today, everything in the West is the creation of Christianity except the Christian church. That is where you can look to see where, pagan elements. And that it has to do with, there were several gods that had to do with death and rebirth. So it's more than just deification, it's also conquering death.
Yeah.
And then of course there was the descent to the underworld and then rising. Although I'm not sure if is that actually in the Bible, Ton, or is that a tradition that Christ went to for 3 days or during his 3 days?
No, it's not in the Bible, but there is some sermon in even the first century. We often hear about it on Holy Saturday after Good Friday, where there's this ancient sermon of God, of Christ after he died. He descended into the underworld.
Yes.
And he greeted Adam, and then he woke up Adam basically, and he took Adam up with him.
Now, didn't he also retrieve the key of life? I believe was what it was in one of the stories.
I don't know about that one. I mean, he is the tree of life, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hit on this deification thing, deifying mortals. So there is a theory, by the way, that Jesus himself was a trained imperial magician, okay, who worked for the Romans, and he was used as an agent to bring the hero people into compliance because they were a rebellious state for the Roman Empire. So they sent in somebody to basically water down their religion and bring in compliance for them. And then before he was found out, he was executed.
Wow. That doesn't make sense.
Sound like something Mr. Robot would say.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying.
That doesn't make sense at all, because the Roman concept was it doesn't matter who you believe, what your faith is. It's just that you have to pay homage to Rome, pay taxes and so forth. So it doesn't matter which religion you are, as long as you uphold the Roman concepts.
Well, and at the time, somehow it was documented. I don't know. Some guy has an entire 12-year college education on Christ, but he said that like Christ, man.
12 years college education.
Yeah. He said at the time period where Jesus was walking around doing his miracles, there were 2 other documented Jesuses who were magicians. And I find
you can start talking about Apollonius of Tyana, you can start talking about the Peter Paul feud. The thing is, it's good to keep in mind. I read some very interesting works on. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was looking at the historic, what we do have of the political and social movements that were going on at the time, and Christ's ministry does fit in well with what we know of the socio-political situation. Now, I don't know if he was a Roman catspaw. I kind of doubt that, although I guess anything is theoretically possible. But,
well, I mean, the miracles that he was performing was actually common for that day. Rabbis would go around all the time doing the same miracles.
I don't think he ever do it. I'd like to see some of them do some now.
Yeah, I mean, that's
my thing. I would love to see that now, but
that there was actually like 3 or 4 different versions of Jesus. Like they can't pinpoint which one was actually the Jesus that's mentioned in the Bible.
right.
Well, it wasn't an uncommon name, you know.
Right. So I mean, there is some things that's kind of going off of that, but at the same time, I think this is where we probably should let Tan hyperventilate, take a break, and get back to this next week because he's put this together really, really well, and
That's okay. I mean, while you guys was talking, I was just scrolling through to the end. So
Saint
your
Robert Bellamy. He
your
had
readers.
They made jugs in his shape. I'm sorry, you ever see a Bellarmine jug?
Yeah.
They make these jugs that look like Saint Robert.
yeah.
They're called Bellarmine jugs. Yeah.
I think we should pick this up next week.
I'm sorry, Ton. I did not mean to interrupt you, but I mean it's like, wow, okay, I know that guy.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Do you feel like picking this up next week? Because I think you've tapped into some really good stuff, Dan. Here.
Sure. I will prepare more stuff actually. So I haven't gone through all of it, but
I'm gonna come back with some more of this Dead Sea Scrolls stuff too, because I think there's a lot of things that, especially because whenever I stepped away to smoke a cigarette, you were starting to talk about Satan, and I think that there's a lot of cool stuff you need to hear about this stuff, because I learned this actually from
Satan.
I actually learned a lot of this from Esoterica, which is a really, really cool channel on YouTube.
Yeah, Dr. Sledge, he's pretty cool.
He knows his stuff, and like when you start talking about what we were talking about there with Satan and the Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff, he gets right into it. He just it'll blow you out of the water.
Actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the YouTube channel by the name of Matron.
No,
Italian, actually Italian that just recently moved to the US, but he looks at a lot of. He tries to provide evidence for religious sort of Bible concepts.
Cool. Okay, so you want me to go ahead and cut it off here and then come back next week with it?
yeah, let's resume next week where we have more. Otto, feel free to join early next week.
I would like to.
Also be.
Yeah, that would be great. Sorry I didn't get here sooner tonight. It's just been a wacky day. Issues with my mom at the nursing home. We don't need to go into it, but what time are you guys starting?
It'd be 6 o'clock your time.
All right, I'll make a point of being here for that.
Okay.
I'll be dog sitting by then too, so I'll have a new dog to show you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, do you want me to do an ending, or do you want to do a Tan?
You go. I don't know. Okay, let me do it then. What are we doing in ending? I mean, so we're wrapping up this first part of going through the Book of Enoch. Got a little sidetracked halfway through, but we will resume, get back on track next week. I hope to go into more details of the Catholic's perspective, how we look at the book.
Okay.